Hey guys, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Minor Ramos, and those of you who do know me, you've been asking me kind of what I've been up to and what I'm doing these days, and more specifically about the impact that we're having. So I wanted to do a quick video, just a very brief presentation to give you some insights as to where our legacy is going to take us next. I want to ask you a deep question though. I want you to take a look at that first slide, and I want you to imagine any dependents that you might have, your children, your grandchildren, anybody that depends on you. And I want to ask you a profound question. Are you prepared should anything happen to you? And I'll share my story in a little bit, but I want to tell you that unless you figure out the enormity of your estate, that means all of your holdings, everything that belongs to you, everything you worked hard for, and you don't put it into a perspective of perpetuity and to make sure that it lives way beyond you, it's going to be maybe just another wasted time for you right now. So I just want to make sure that I'm very authentic and real with you. If you don't want to hear about this isn't important to you, maybe this is a good time to turn this off and maybe pay attention to it at a time that you could give your full attention to it, because really what we are about is about impact. So let me just share with you one of the reasons why we're doing this. So most of you that know us, we're aware of, August of 2021, I was hospitalized along with my daughter Kayla. We were both, victims of COVID, right? I mean, that's probably the best way to describe it. We were both hospitalized, and 12 days after I had been in the hospital, I was released. But one day before that, my daughter Kayla was basically intubated, and she was in the ICU. So 124 days from the moment that she was hospitalized, our lives completely changed. And the reason for doing this is to carry out a legacy that she was part of, that she really wanted to do this with me. And she has an enormous, wonderful story, wonderful life, and I wanted to put that into perspective. The little bit that I want to tell you is that our lives were turned around. We had to move around. We moved from Florida to Pennsylvania, and then the family was helping out, so we were in the Chicago area, and she left two cats. We care for them, and this is about when situations arise when these documents that we're going to talk about today are going to be so critical. And the reason why I wanted to share that story is because even though all she had were pets, and whatever belonged to her, that we were in charge of taking care of after she passed away, I just want you to think that if you have anybody that depends on you, that's a child or a grandchild, this would be an enormous thing for you to think of. And I'm just going to ask you to, at the very end, to just kind of stick through this presentation, and I'll show you why I think this is so important and how you can partner with us. Okay, so let's just get going here. Estate planning. I always like to ask this question: would you prefer your legacy to be a bright light for your family or a dark shadow? We are the TOC agency, the Throne of Champions agency, and I want to basically just put this out. Your home, your valuables, and all your sentimental items are going to be the key to your estate. You know what you own and who gets it. And there's really an important part of this that most people don't really think about. The fact that the word estate, or at least the phrase estate planning, probably makes a lot of people think, well, it's only for the wealthy. It's very, very expensive. There's a lot of lawyers involved. What I'm here to tell you that basically this platform involves attorneys combined with an internet-based technology that allows you to do what you should be doing, right? So I'm gonna show you very, very quickly why you would want to do this. So take out a pen and paper, and I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, just a series of questions here. You can look at the screen as well. When you consider, if you're a homeowner, and if you think your house has at least $50,000 in equity, I want you to put the number 5. So 5 points for something like that. If you rent, put a 0. That would be the logical thing. When it comes to your children, if any of them are under the age of 18, it's 5 points per child, right? If you have healthy adult children, that would be 3 points, per child. And then if you have any disabled children, no matter what age, that would be 5 points as well. So I hope that kind of guides you in starting to think about how this can affect you, right? Your valuables, let's talk about that. I mean, if you've ever done renter's insurance, or if you've done homeowner's insurance, and the insurance company asks you, how much do you think your valuables are worth, right? I mean, people easily fall within $75,000 to $100,000 worth of everything that's in your household, right? Except your home. So if that's the case, if you think that your valuables are 50,000 or more, you can put 5 points to that. One of the considerations is the number 4 here would be like multi-states. If you own any property in multiple states, you would want to put 5 points as well. And one consideration there is not necessarily in real estate, but in marriages, right? So if you've ever been married or remarried, and that anything like that has changed, just kind of start to think about how this can impact the result of that. Number 5 would be your privacy, right? Do you care if lists of all your belongings become public and details made available online? If you care about that, put the number 4, or 4 points. And finally, the incapacitation, right? So this is the question, or the answer, that the statement that you would want to make. If incapacitated, I would like to designate someone to manage my personal affairs, my health care, and my assets. If that's you, you want to put a 5, right? So 5 points for something like that. So hopefully that's pretty clear. If you need to, maybe pause the video for a minute, kind of tally everything up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the results here on the next page. Okay, so how did you do? How did you score? The reality is that if you ended up with a score of 0, at minimum, you're probably going to be okay, without an estate plan. But make sure, this is an important one, make sure that you put payable on death on all of your bank accounts. And if you are unmarried, you should have a power of attorney. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But remember that a will is really just a wish list. So a lot of people think that it's okay to just have a will. And as you'll see in a moment, why this is so important, why you want to have more than that if you care about your family and perpetuity within your family. If you scored anywhere between 1 and 5, you could get away with having a last will and testament. but you should consider having an advance directive as well, right? So your medical power of attorney, um, and financial power of attorney. And then if you scored anything 5 or above, you may be able to benefit from having a comprehensive estate plan, that includes a revocable living trust, a last will and testament, the powers of attorney, a living will with the advance directives, whether medical or financial. All right, so I hope that that gives you kind of a sense of, where you thought you were, maybe a little bit more clarity about, how this plays out and why you should consider, an estate plan if you have that many dependents. Believe it or not, either you have a plan or the government has one done for you. But most people are, really unsettled about the thought of leaving very personal decisions up to the courts, or any laws that are passed by politicians, not to mention the cost and the loss of privacy. That is the most important thing, that when you realize most people want to keep their privacy private. Unfortunately, most people find this out way too late. If you have no plan, the estate dictates what happens to you and your belongings in a very open and very public courts. Some of the reasons why people think that either they can't afford, don't have the time, or is really, really complicated to be able to complete these documents. So the question here is, why don't more people have an estate plan? And, traditionally it has been. So think about what happens. We have, obviously there's attorneys involved here, but most of the times people won't, go to an attorney because it's very expensive. And then there's some kind of a retainer that they need to keep annually, or if something needs to be changed, they'll need them to do that. But now with technology, we're able to do state state planning, attorney-based documents at a fraction of the cost. What used to be an intimidating process, it's been diminished to the point where if you know how to open up a bank account, and you know how to open up a credit application, and you know how to navigate a very simple platform on the on the webinar, right, on the internet. Simple. You'll be able to get this resolved. The complicated language goes away. The only thing that won't go away is that this is a very uncomfortable topic. But here's what I will tell you. Preparation solves many unanswered questions for your loved ones. You're not really doing this for yourself. You're doing this for your loved ones, for the people that will have to unravel your estate should something happen to you. So let's take a look at what is a revocable living trust. Well, as you can see over here on this side, you got your assets. And if you have just a will, typically what would happen what would end up happening is it would go through the probate court. So all the assets have to be stopped, and someone has to check them, so that a court, attorneys, appraisers, people that will manage, whatever is available, and then normally it would, after it goes through all of that, after the costs are incurred, then your heirs get whatever remains. A trust is simply a contract, right? Creating a separate entity that will outlive you and eliminate the need for the court. So I think a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I think that it's important for you to have a picture of it. Just look at where you would want to be. You really want to avoid that probate court. And the only way to do that is by having your living trust. But what is probate? It is a court supervised process for identifying and gathering the assets of a deceased person, paying off the debts, and distributing the assets to his or her beneficiaries. Very, very quickly, I'll share with you an example of someone that I had an opportunity to speak with very recently. I'll leave the names out and where they're from so that, for their identity protection, right? There was a death in the family, but none of these things were set in place. So the mortgage was in jeopardy. I can give you more details about how that was. The vehicle, the family vehicle, was in jeopardy because it was in the name of the deceased. And even though the other person was making the payments, it ended up being that the financing institution, the moment that the person was deceased, they get a record of it and they go after and picked up the car, right? So, and then the other one is the banking accounts. The moment that a person passes away, the financial institutions cease and they cease, like they stop every banking account that's the individual has. If this isn't set up, then it leaves all that time. It's very, very costly, and it also takes a lot of time to settle, right? So that's one of the reasons why we emphasize having all this stuff in order. So what goes in a trust? I want you to have a picture. Anybody that loves shopping or doesn't love shopping, grocery shopping, right? So whether you go to Target and you have your mobile order and they bring everything to your car, you still have to come home and bring in all the groceries, right? So if you have vegetables and things that need to go in the refrigerator, things that need to go in the freezer, things that need to go in the pantry, things that need to go in the cabinet, right? That's essentially what a living trust will do. The will is part of it. The living trust makes sure that you took the time to put every part of your groceries where they belong. And if that's not done, then you're leaving yourself up to having somebody else do it for you. But so what are some of those things, right? So you have your home, any assets that you might have. There might be even some, really special, family belongings that you really want to carry on, and you don't want anybody fighting over them, right? You don't want to divide your family. But more importantly, I think this is the part that most people overlook. It is a place where you can make what's normally available to everybody secured in a place that only those that need to know will know. And in a living trust, you become the trustor. You have a trustee, right? Somebody who's going to manage that trust. It is very simple to understand. It's like if you trust, somebody of trust, like a friend or somebody who would carry that out for you. No different than if you were hospitalized and you had your kid, down at the school or daycare. Who would you trust to go and take care of them? Well, in a similar way, it's kind of like this, but now we're talking about incapacitation. Maybe you're in a coma in a hospital and there's nothing you can do, or you pass away, and of course, something has to happen with everything that you own. But the other part is that with the way that we do things, we want to do a few more things beyond just what a trust does. Some attorneys may not look into this because what their job is to look at legalese, right? Our job is to have impact. So here, what we want to do is we want to take the time and figure out what would you like to happen with all your digital assets. Man, I can think of your iPhone, your iPad, your Facebook account, your Twitter account. All of those things are part of you, that something needs to be designated and someone needs to be able to take care of those things should something happen to you. But the most important thing I think that we would do is give you an opportunity to really just think through and just imagine, should you not be around here, what message could your family hear directly from you? We do it in a very, very special way. I'll share those details if this is something that interests you. But we want to take that part because that's the one part that no one could ever get back, right? If you don't have the opportunity to, you know, go a little bit of an interview, maybe, say something specifically that you want your family to know. Remember the statement that I made. Do you want your legacy to be a bright light for your family or a dark shadow? And if you don't do this, it leaves your family with a lot of questions. And they're going to keep asking why questions. Why this? Why that? Why, we could have done this, we could have done that, and it's way too late. So, as I mentioned before, fortune favors the prepared. And I think this is a way that you can, really look into this. And finally, what I'll say about this is, if none of this makes any sense to you, or you don't care about the things of value, right? Your assets, your home, your car, your bank accounts, all of that other stuff. And if the emotional part doesn't impact you, like leaving, a really well thought out message for your family should something happen to you, the most important thing that I think everyone wants to know is, what's going on inside here? What is going on beyond this life? Let's think about eternity, right? Let's think about all the questions your family is going to have when it comes to you and where you're going to spend the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what beliefs you have. Most of us know there's a higher power. My conviction is there's a living God, not only that allows us to, invited us into his house, so to speak, adopted us into his family, so to speak, and we all have the opportunity to do that. If none of this is of importance to you, and this is the one area that you would like to have a conversation about, that would give me the greatest satisfaction to be able to, speak with you about that. Some of the benefits that you're going to find about having your estate plan, it really just saves you money, keeps the privacy of your family, and it'll save a lot of stress and paperwork later on. And there's just so many ways that you can save the time to do this. And then most of the times people want to know, well, how is this, software, how does this thing work? How does this program work? Well, what we did is we made it available to you so that you could have a free trial. You would just mark this link. You could, copy it to your browser. We'll make a link available as well, so you could go directly to it. But if you wanted to take a picture of this and you want to just copy it, you could go directly to it. You would just put in your name and your state and your email, and you would just hit submit, and then it would open up for you. Now, these are for the do-it-yourselfers, right? But there's some people that you say, they're intimidated by this. They'd rather have somebody kind of coaching them along, and that's exactly what I'm here for. That's what we would love to help you do, and we're gonna find ways for this to be available to you. I will tell you this: if money is an issue, there are ways around it. It's just like depending on where you are, if it's just a simple will, there's resources for that. What I'm talking about is the estate planning that really captures everything about your life and your family. And I think that it's important for you to consider. So now you might be asking yourself, why is this so important to you? Let me ask you a question. Who are you fighting for? Who's important to you? This logo that you see here is the artwork of my daughter Kayla. After before she was hospitalized, we were working on this together. She's just very, very talented, with websites, with social media, digital marketing, just so many different areas. And I'm honoring her by showcasing her handiwork. I think it's beautiful. The logo, has a sort of like a safe, right? And it's got this motion going around. There seems to be some movement going around there. Her beautiful name is Kayla Ramos. She lives forever in our hearts. The reason I mentioned her and as part of our story is she fell in love with the ASL community. She was able to hear. She was able to talk. She just fell in love with people that couldn't hear. And so that was her passion. That became her passion. A student at the University of South Florida, go Bulls. And a beautiful heart, a beautiful person looking out for people that are maybe shunned out by the public. And so the reason why I mentioned to you is doing work with us, you would actually be part of her legacy because she wanted to establish a foundation or a nonprofit so that the deaf community could benefit from being able to hear messages like this, right? So, should you take part of this in this and get your program done, I can tell you that you're going to be impacting more than just your family because you'll be part of Kayla's legacy. Kayla, your daddy's going to honor you in every way. I'm going to tell your story. I'm going to live up to everything that you wanted to accomplish. I honor you and I love you. And this message is to everyone who hears this from the bottom of my heart. I would just tell you, if you don't do it here, if you want to find any way of doing it whatsoever, and you want my advice, even if you don't go through here, I would just tell you, just get it done. What you don't want is to leave a dark shadow for your family. But what you do want is to have a bright light that'll shine way after you're gone, way after the time that our Creator has allowed you to be here. And we would be honored if you did it through us so that we can help Kayla's legacy move along and live forever. So I want to thank you for your time. I wanted to keep this as real as possible. There's no shenanigans. It's just very, very to the point. And the questions that people are asking is, can this work for me? Yes. Is it important? Of course. Don't let time, don't let money, and most importantly, don't let procrastination be the things that stop you from doing the things that you should be doing for your family and for your loved ones. More importantly, for your family, for yourself, that you make sure that this carries on. I want to leave two final thoughts with you. How have you impacted the world? And how do you want to be remembered? Ponder on those thoughts. Let's have a conversation. We'll have a link so you could book an appointment with us. And again, this is Minor Ramos, living out Kayla's legacy. I want to thank you so much for your time. All right.